What's up, YouTubers? Welcome back. As promised in my Andra and Fisto review, here's part 2 of my Wave 3 Revelations review. And these are the last two figures in the Wave 3 release. Here you can see Stinkor and SCAREGLOW. Of course, these come in those big window packaging that we're used to. If I turn it to the side, you can see this really fantastic artwork of both the figures. And I gotta tell you, every time I see this artwork, I'm pretty impressed. And as we turn the packaging to the back, a couple of more really amazing pieces of artwork back here of Stinkor looking all angry and SCAREGLOW looking scary as ever. Of course, there's their bios of each of these figures, and along the bottom of the packaging down here is all the figures in Wave 3, and we've already looked at Fisto and Andra. Feel free to check that video out if you like. And as mentioned in that video, I actually lucked out and got this entire wave before the street release date. If we look at the side of the box, you can see the words SCAREGLOW, Evil Ghost of Skeletor, and Stinkor, Evil Master of Odors, which I always thought was pretty hilarious as a kid. Let's turn the boxes back around the front. And as I always say, for you mint and box collectors, this is a great way to display these figures, but we're going to open them up and check them out. I've taken everything out of the packaging and laid it on the table, and we'll go over all the accessories that are included in both the packaging. Of course, we'll start over here with Stinkor. Man, that name just cracks me up every time I say it. We'll take a look at his blue shield, and this is in a nice, almost metallic royal blue color. You can see the raised rivets and the raised rim around it. Of course, on the back here is the armband, which is flexible. You can put his forearm through here, and his hand goes onto that hand grip. Next, we'll take a look at his additional set of hands here. He has a gripping hand and an open gesturing hand, or a slapping hand if you want to call it that. These are in the same nice color red as his wrist gauntlets on the figure itself. They also included an additional head, and I really love when figures come with an additional head. Look at his nice bright yellow eyes and blue eyelids. You can see all the sculpting of the fur, the white patch on the top of the skull. And he has this mouthpiece or breather mask, which is removable. Look at those scary looking jagged teeth. And the breather mask is pretty rigid. It's not flexible at all, but there's a peg, and that just ports in the hole of the mouth of this additional head like this, and fits in there nice and snug. You can see the hole right there. Put that back on, and you'll see that that stays on. No problem at all. And next, we'll take a look at SCAREGLOW and his accessories. We'll start out with this long staff that has this axe blade on it. And this is in a teal type color. This actually reminds me of the original Castle Grayskull axe that came with the castle on the weapons rack. I'm not sure if you guys remember that or not, but it's kind of what that reminds me of. Mine's a little bent, so I'll have to heat it up. And it is rigid, so it's not pliable or rubbery. He also comes with an additional set of hands. And the first thing I notice is these are out of a translucent type plastic. I'm not sure if that's coming off on camera or not. Got some really fantastic paint on the back of the hands, and it's an open gesturing hand and a fist. So really great addition here. Next, we'll look at the figures themselves. We'll start with Stinkor, but I'll take all this stuff and just get it right out of the way so we're not bumping into it. Grab him. And as we look at his paint and sculpt, the first thing I notice again is his bright yellow eyes. Fantastic paintwork on his head sculpt with those scary jagged teeth again. On his chest he has this, looks like a voice box or something in front of his mouth. Nice orange rigid body armor with some red paint highlights. Of course, this is removable. I would suggest using a little heat before you do that. A nice red belt and flexible fur loincloth. Nice red boots with these jagged, scary-looking clawed toes. Great musculature on the side with a skunk white patch going all the way down. If we look at the back of the body, you can see the two blue air tanks. And these are actually molded onto this, so they're not removable at all, which would have been nice if those came out. Again, turning to this side, more musculature and the white skunk patch going down his arm. And of course, right back around to the front, so he's a little tough to stand up, as you can see. Got to do a little bit of adjusting on his webbed feet here. They're not completely flat, but he will stand up. You just got to work with it a little bit. Hopefully he won't fall down while we look at SCAREGLOW here. I wouldn't suggest putting him on a shelf because he will domino effect all your figures. Now let's look at SCAREGLOW. I was looking forward to this figure from the beginning. And look at that menacing glow-in-the-dark translucent head. The paint is absolutely perfect. You can see the red dots of his eyes. The scary look of this sculpt. Now his cape here, he has this rubbery cape portion over his shoulders with the popped collar and the fabric on the back. Looking at the fantastic black body and the glow-in-the-dark paint that, unfortunately, I'm not sure if that glows in the dark or not. Coming down to his purple skirt here, which is also pliable. Great looking sculpt on his boots with these nice big gray points and purple effects on the actual boots themselves. If we lift up the loincloth or skirt, you can see the paintwork on his thighs and of course on the front of his calves or his shins. Great looking paint coming down the arm with the royal purple gauntlet right here on this wrist. Coming around to the back, I get a good look at the actual cape, and this is kind of got a tattered look to it. It's nice and flowy and you can see the light coming through it. There's no wire in it, unfortunately, but I don't mind. Let's lift this up and we'll take a look at his back itself. You can see the plain looking back here, but it's got some nice musculature back here and not too much going on. This is pliable too. Again, the paint carries down his right arm with another royal purple gauntlet and the ominous, scary looking pointing hand or gripping hand. Now the question that's on everyone's mind is, does he glow in the dark? So if you give me a second, I'm going to actually charge him up with a really bright light. Let me stand him up right here. We're going to shut the lights off and let's just see what actually glows on this figure. Whoa, just look at this thing. I got to tell you, I charge it up and this thing is really bright. The paint lines really pop on this thing and he really looks fantastic. Now unfortunately, all those painted skulls and bones on his body don't glow, but this thing is really bright. I remember when I was a kid, I used to have some of those TV monsters like Dracula, Mummy, and Frankenstein that used to glow in the dark, and those things used to scare the crap out of me, so this brings me back. Alright, let me get all my lights back on. Give me a second here and I'll put the big light on. There we go. So, yeah, I'm pretty impressed. Unfortunately, the paint doesn't glow in the dark on this figure, but the head certainly does. Alright, what I'm going to do now is incorporate all their accessories and see what works on each of these figures. We'll start with SCAREGLOW right here. And one thing I just want to point out to you folks is, because they use the translucent plastic on all his hands, they are really rigid. So just be careful when you're trying to put anything in their hands so you don't snap the thumbs off. This hand over here looks like it's opened a little bit more, so this is the hand we're actually going to put his weapon in. And what I found is, if you take the actual staff and you tip it sideways like this, and then you kind of squeeze it behind his thumb in this fashion, it just clicks right in. Let me spin this around so it looks proper. Slide it down, and yeah, he's holding onto this really tightly, and he's not going to let this thing go. Alright, let me see if I can't get him to stand up without knocking Stinkor over. Let's grab Stinkor next. And I think we'll start with his extra head sculpt, so let me grab that. And I will tell you, off camera I did heat this head up, just like I did the Andra figure, so it'll pop off relatively easily. And let's grab this additional head. And what you have to do is you push this on until you feel it pop in place. So now here's what he looks like with the blue breather mask on. If we take this off, you can see the snarling, jagged teeth. And you can see the difference between the two. Alright, get this aside. And next we'll take a look at his shield. So what I need to do is pop this hand off. And grab the shield here. And again, I will use this hand because this looks like the shield holding hand. And again, I warm this up and this comes off really easily. Grab this open, gesturing, slapping shield holding hand and pop that in. And in order for him to hold the shield, you basically got to manipulate the thumb behind the big strap. If I don't drop it here on camera, and there we go, we just slip it around, give it a little spin, and push it on until it's nice and snug, like that. And what you'll see is, he holds onto this no problem at all, it's not going to fall off. And there we go, Stinkor has his shield in his hand. Let's see if we can't get him to stand up back here. Don't fall down on camera. And there's the pair. Alright, it's articulation time. Let's go over Stinkor first. And as we always do, we're going to start with his head sculpt. So this moves left and right. Now, due to the fur on the back of his head right here, he's not going to get much of an up motion. So that's hindered right there. And very little tucking his chin in. So it does go up and down very little. Not too much going on right there. Alright, we'll come down to his shoulders next. Of course, these rotate 360 degrees if you need them to. Nice high T-pose on both the arms. He does have the bicep swivel right here. He also has a double joint right here on the elbow, and it actually goes pretty good, considering he has a pretty decent sized bicep. We'll come down to the wrists. These rotate 360 degrees, and these are pivoted, but just note you have to kind of hold them like this, because what wants to happen is they do want to pop out of the actual forearm. So they do get some motion back and forth. And just note that both the wrists are absolutely the same, so just be careful you don't pop them out completely. We'll come down to the midsection next, and underneath all this armor there is a cut, so he does get a little bit of wiggle back and forth, as you can see, and it does rock and roll back and forth a little bit. Of course, that is removable like we said earlier. Just got to heat that up and unbuckle it. He does have waist articulation, so really great range of motion on his waist, back and forth. Alright, we'll come down to his legs next. He can do the splits about this far. He can put his leg back about this far. And due to the rubbery loincloth, that actually gets out of the way. Now he does have a thigh cut right here. That rotates back and forth. He can Spartan kick forward this far.
This is Sparta!
He also has a double knee joint, which will bend down so you can get a look. There we go. Nice tight knee joint. He also has a boot cut, which does go back and forth here. We'll come down to his foot. That's on a rocker, and as you can see, there's a hole in the bottom in case you want to put it on a figure stand. Now he can point his toe down this far, but he can only raise his feet up about this far, and that's again just due to the way the figure is sculpted. So you're not going to get much upward motion on the feet. Now, what I like to do is actually see if these figures can reach behind their heads. So see if he can't get his hands back here. Yeah, you absolutely can. No problem at all. So fantastic articulation from top to bottom on this figure, with the exception of his feet. I will say, getting him to stand up, like I said earlier, is a little tricky. Now he is top heavy, and I don't recommend, like I said earlier, putting him on a shelf, because he will domino effect all your figures. And as you can see, he just wants to fall over. So you gotta, there we go. I have to lean him forward just a little bit to get him to stand up. Now, before we go over the articulation of SCAREGLOW, there's something I missed earlier on, and I do want to show you that the cape actually is removable. You just pop his head off. It comes off real easily, and now this is a two-part cape. Get him to stand up here, and the top of this is actually nice and pliable and rubbery and flexible. Get this out of the way, and the actual soft goods is just a hole cut out right here. Get this off the figure, and again, there's the hole, nice and airy, and you see the light shining through it. So let me put the head back on and go over the articulation. Alright, here's what he looks like in the back, in case we didn't go over that earlier. Let's start with the head. You can move left and right, and it will go all the way around if you wanted to. He can look up about this far, and he can tuck his chin in about this far. Alright, let's go down to the shoulders next. Of course, these rotate all the way around if you need them to. Get him in a T-pose here, like so. He does have that bicep swivel. That rotates around. Does have a double jointed elbow. Really great range of motion there. We'll come down to his wrist next. And same thing, his wrists are rather tight, but they do go back and forth. And they're both the same. Now I do want to point out on his wrist gauntlet, there's a point right there. So when you go to articulate the wrist, just make sure you're not trying to press against that, because you won't get any range of motion there. Alright, we'll come down to his midsection. He has a diaphragm cut, so that rotates back and forth. It does go back, and I really like how they actually painted up underneath the cut there. He does go forward about this far, so he can look down, and he can go back about this far. Not too bad, I guess. Alright, now we come down to the waist. He also has that waist swivel. Really great range of motion here. Goes back and forth. Come down to his legs. Now on the actual skirt here, there's a slice here and here. So they took in consideration him getting to do the splits. Not too bad. Be it that it's long, I'm really glad they had the foresight to make this flexible. He can put his leg back about this far in a walking pose. And of course he can also Spartan kick forward about this high. Again, this is flexible, so if you heat it up, you might get it a little higher. Alright, also, let me lift this up out of the way. He also has a thigh cut right there. And you can see that move back and forth. He does have double jointed knees. Get these to bend up nice and tight. There we go. It's a little stiff being a new figure. Not too bad. Let's look at his boot cut next. This goes back and forth. And now this actually exposes that paint back there. Coming down to his ankle. Again, this is on a rocker with a hole for a foot peg. Goes back and forth. He can point his toe down this far. And just like his partner over there, he can only get his toe up about this high. It's time to compare these figures with the other figures I have in my collection, and I'm going to stick with the Revelation figures I have. Grab SCAREGLOW here, and you can see he towers over both these figures. Nice and menacing looking. I'll grab Skeletor himself. You see how all these baddies look as a group? Let's grab He-Man next, so let me move SCAREGLOW out of the way. Grab He-Man here. And yeah, he towers over these two figures as well. Alright. Let me get these two guys out of the way. And let me just bring in the other two Wave 3 figures that we did a review on, and you'll get a good shot of just what this entire set looks like. And here's Fisto. And here's the entire Wave 3. So now for my final thoughts on this entire wave. First off, Stinkor and SCAREGLOW, just like the previous set, are absolutely masterfully painted. No paint slop anywhere, the articulation's on point, and you can't beat that glow-in-the-dark skull on SCAREGLOW. When it comes to Andra and Fisto, they're both sculpted perfectly and zero paint slop on either of them as well. So if you have the means and you're able to find these in the store or online, absolutely pick them up. You won't be disappointed. Let me ask you, what's your favorite of this entire wave? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, guys, I'd like to thank you for watching. If you like what you see, join the community. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and bell for future notification of upcoming videos. And more importantly, help a fellow collector out and share your knowledge.